Wind speed 20 knots. Abort!
Shut down the engines.
Go for it.
On this episode of Old Joe's Reminiscence, when a shrewd junkman comes up with a scheme to salvage equipment left behind following the moon landings, some of the shortcuts he takes happen to attract the attention of one very suspicious FBI agent. It was a Saturday evening, January 20th, 1979, a few hours before my birthday. At 8 p.m., I sat in anticipation as I was tuned to Channel 4, WTAE-TV, Pittsburgh's ABC television affiliate, as they aired a Saturday movie of the week. It was a made-for-TV feature, Salvage, originally filmed as a pilot for the series that would become Salvage 1. Some people had difficulty accepting the mild-mannered Andy Griffith in his role as a con man and junk peddler, but I'd already seen a very dark side of Andy Griffith 5 years earlier, when he and some other popular TV stars appeared together in another ABC made-for-TV movie, Prey for the Wildcats. I'd read that Andy Griffith had initially turned down this salvage role. I'm not sure where he got the idea, but he somehow believed the script had been for a Saturday morning kids show. Salvage, a kids show? I'm not seeing that. Other than that, there's not much information available about the production of Salvage. No trivia, no script, nothing. Only that most of the film was shot at Burbank, except for a few location shoots, like at the Ontario Motor Speedway in Ontario, California. So, without much further ado, let's get right into it as I watch a Sunday, June 3rd, 1979 rerun of the made-for-TV movie, Salvage.
Sunday night movie. Tonight, an impossible dream. A crazy junk man.
A harmless little business venture.
An ex-astronaut with something to prove.
I can do it, but it's up to you.
An explosive fuel expert with more than just a reputation on the line.
Go for it.
And a junkyard rocket aimed at the moon.
I mean, is it legal?
I don't know.
Andy Griffith, Joel Higgins, and Trish Stewart in the hit movie that put him in orbit. Salvage.
The show opens with a World War I Newport biplane flying acrobatic maneuvers in the sky while the credits roll. The man behind the stick is salvage dealer Harry Broderick, played by Andy Griffith.
Andy Griffith was born on June 1 in 1926 to Carl Lee and Geneva Nunn Griffith in Mount Airy, North Carolina. They were so poor that baby Andy had to sleep in the dresser drawers of relatives because they couldn't afford to buy a house. Andy was an extremely shy child, but making people laugh helped him overcome that, and he performed on stage in high school. He continued acting at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, where he earned a Bachelor of Music degree in 1949. He continued making people laugh with his comedy routines, such as his 1953 monologue, "What It Was Football." That led to television appearances on shows such as The Ed Sullivan Show and on Broadway in No Time for Sergeants. Andy later starred in the motion picture adaptation of that play, which served as the film debut of his friend Don Knotts, whom Andy had met during the Broadway production. Griffith appeared as a small-town sheriff in an episode of the Danny Thomas series, Make Room for Daddy, a backdoor pilot designed to introduce the Andy Griffith Show. The fictional town of Mayberry was based on Andy Griffith's hometown of Mount Airy, North Carolina. Andy Griffith left the show in 1967 to pursue a movie career, and he started his own production company in 1972. Andy Griffith was awarded a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame for television on April 21, 1976. Andy returned to series television in 1986, starring in the legal drama Matlock, which aired for 9 years.
My wife and I may visit the Andy Griffith Museum on a trip we're taking later this year. After landing, Harry mentions a few mechanical defects, and he offers the seller a measly $18,000. When the man says $25,000, take it or leave it, Harry again offers his $18,000. Cash. The next thing we know, Harry's driving his Rolls Royce down the road, and a truck's hauling that airplane on a trailer. Harry uses his in-car telephone to place a call to an off-screen theme restaurant owner who wants the Newport, especially its propeller. Harry says that he's only charging him $20,000 because the engine's missing. Well, that's odd, since we just saw Harry flying the thing. Next, he makes a call to Jerry, an antique airplane mechanic, who's looking for a Newport engine. Jerry offers $10,000 for the engine, but Harry says he has to get $12,000 this time. When Jerry asks about the prop, Harry lies.
Forget the prop.
Back at the salvage yard, Harry, who's back from a trip overseas, is greeted by his ex-wife, Lorene, who's also his secretary. She's being played by Jacqueline Scott. We've seen her before in a couple of Planet of the Apes television episodes I reviewed. She's impressed that Harry's made $14,000 in profit between there and the airport. Later, Harry is watching television when a couple of men bring in that pilot seat from the Newport. Harry pulls a revolver from his desk drawer and he shoots a bullet hole in the seat. Now earlier, he'd promised the restaurant owner that the Newport had a bullet hole in the seat. So Harry's a con man. He stops the men to pay attention to the TV report. The announcer mentions that the gear left behind on the moon is worth millions of dollars. Harry stays up late, going over figures, and the next morning it's obvious that Harry had not gone home. When Lorene and two of Harry's men confront him, Harry confesses that he wants to build a spaceship to go to the moon, salvage all the junk that's up there, bring it back, and sell it. They think he's crazy. Well, it comes out that he's had this idea for quite a while. That's why he hired those two men, engineers, the targets of NASA cutbacks. Mac is played by J.J. Saunders, who appeared in 14 episodes of Salvage 1 and who enjoyed a 2-decade screen career. The other man is Fred, played by Raleigh Bond in his very first credited role. He would not return in Salvage 1, but he did make numerous appearances on television and in a few films throughout the 1980s. Raleigh's career was cut short in 1989 by a terminal illness. Harry shows those two engineers a book titled The Translinear Vector Principle, written by Addison Carmichael. Mac and Fred are both familiar with that author. He's the ex-astronaut Skip Carmichael. Fred says Skip's a genius and a daredevil. Harry asks if Skip's principle will work. It could work, in theory. Skip was always coming up with crazy ideas, he says. Harry decides to meet Skip Carmichael, the author and ex-astronaut. Skip Carmichael is played by Joel Higgins.
Actor and singer Joel Higgins was born in Bloomington, Illinois on September 28 in 1943. Joel attended Parkway Central High School in St. Louis, and he graduated from Michigan State University in 1966. He did a stint in the U.S. Army, serving in the Special Services as an entertainer. He took his show on the road when he returned to the States, and he was offered a role in a production of Guys and Dolls. He performed in additional stage productions, and he won awards on Broadway, which led to the role of Bruce Carson on Search for Tomorrow. Joel made it to prime time when he co-starred with Andy Griffith in the short-lived Salvage television series on ABC. Higgins is probably best remembered for his portrayal of Edward W. Stratton III, a role he played for 5 seasons on the NBC series Silver Spoons. After that, he continued to appear on stage and television, as well as compose and record music. Joel Higgins turned 82 years old in 2025.
Astronaut Skip Carmichael has been reduced to working as a used car salesman. Talk about scraping the bottom of the barrel. Harry tells Skip that he wants to salvage the junk on the moon. Skip thinks Harry's nuts. Harry mentions the translinear vector principle. He says he's read Skip's book.
See, I said I read your book. I didn't say I understood it.
He offers Skip a job, earning twice what he's making at the car lot. He adds that there's an opportunity that Skip had missed out on at NASA.
I shot at the moon.
Skip quits his job and he takes Harry to the Ontario, California Motor Speedway, where he first demonstrates how NASA goes to the moon. Skip punches the accelerator of his Ferrari and Harry holds on for dear life. They do 0 to 125 in about 9 screen seconds. That was to represent escaping the gravitational forces of the Earth. Then they coast along, demonstrating the trip to the moon. He downshifts to represent slowing down for the moon landing. Then they accelerate and coast back, slamming on the brakes as they reach Earth's atmosphere again. The tires are smoking. Skip explains that the heat of re-entry is their biggest problem to overcome. The trip he demonstrated takes NASA 6 days, he says. Next, Skip returns to their original starting point to demonstrate his way of getting to the moon faster. He tells Harry to stand by for the translinear vector principle. Andy Griffith grabs hold of the car's windshield, anticipating an even greater acceleration this time. The surprise is that they're crawling along at about 5 miles per hour. By maintaining a constant acceleration, it'll take a whole minute to get their speed up to 40 miles per hour. But at the end of 30 minutes, he says, they'll be doing 900. And if they keep accelerating at that rate, they'll be halfway to the moon in just 12 hours. Only 2 days to the moon and back. And by the time they do get back, they'll be going so slow that re-entry won't be a problem. Or so he says. Harry asks what NASA thought was so dangerous about Skip's principle. Skip admits that it's the fuel. NASA will only use a 100% safe fuel. He explains that if they used that, they'd need a fuel tank the size of the World Trade Center. That's big. Using Skip's plan, they'd have to use a much more powerful fuel, which is also a little bit dangerous. Harry asks where they can get such a fuel, to which Skip replies, it doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist? Why you been horsing me around? Now relax, Harry, relax. Doesn't exist yet.
But Skip promises that it will exist after they get Mel Slozar.
What's the Mel Slozar?
Mel Slozar is played by Trish Stewart.
Trish Stewart was born Patricia Stewart in Hot Springs, Arkansas on June 14 in 1946. She studied in Paris in the early 1960s, while her dad was stationed overseas with the United States Air Force. Trish put her European savoir-faire to use as an international flight attendant on Pan American Airways. Her television debut was as a model on the 1972 emergency episode, Showbiz. Over the next few years, she made a few appearances on shows like Chips and Barnaby Jones. She was also a semi-regular on the daytime soap opera The Young and the Restless. Her big break came in 1979 when she was tapped to play Melanie Slozar, an explosives expert, on the Salvage television series. Trish Stewart retired from television acting in 1984, and she was last known to be living in her hometown of Hot Springs, Arkansas.
Skip explains that Mel's the only one who can get their project off the ground. Harry and Skip pay a visit to the film studio where Mel is currently working. Lucky for them, she's just about to be fired from her job after an encounter with an overconfident actor named Biff Kelly. IMDb lists a Bill Kelly, played by Peter Brown, who's known for playing in Western shows such as Lawman and Laredo.
Don't blow it, you dumb fraud!
Back at the salvage yard, the team gathers together to discuss Harry's mission plan. Mac asks how big the ship will be. Harry explains that the size of the ship will be determined by the amount of fuel needed to get to the moon and return with a decent payload. According to Mel, they can do it with less than 1,000 gallons. Fred points out that it took NASA 100,000 gallons. That prompts Harry to bring up the fact that they won't be using traditional rocket fuel.
We're going to use monohydrazine.
Mac looks worried. He says that monohydrazine isn't rocket fuel, adding that it's a high explosive. Now, I was beginning to wonder if monohydrazine was a real thing. For one thing, my spell checker kept flagging it as a non-existent word. So I couldn't imagine any other way of spelling, so I Googled it. It turns out that I was spelling it correctly, and monohydrazine is real. In fact, it is used as a rocket propellant, most recently in the thrusters of several Mars landers. As far as reaching escape velocity using Skip's translinear vector principle, the consensus online is a hard no. Anyway, they convince the others that it will work. Fred says that he can get the surplus rockets and most of the stuff they need, but he asks Harry where they'll get the flight capsule.
We've got one.
We do?
Right there.
A cement mixer?
Far out, Harry. Far out, Harry.
It's Mac's turn to ask where they'll launch it, and Harry says they'll launch it right there.
Harry, you going to launch a spaceship from the junkyard?
Fred asks, is it legal? To which Harry replies, I don't know. And he says he's not going to start asking questions either. The whole thing has to be kept secret. There's a chance they could all go to jail. So he asks if anyone wants out. Harry gives them all a 20% raise and a share of the salvage. With some parachute fabric hiding their work, Fred directs the docking of the cement mixer capsule. Nearby, Mac is setting up a command center in an old travel trailer, and Melanie is working on the fuel mixture. Meanwhile, the FBI gets word of her purchase of some high explosives, said to be for a movie production. Richard Jekyll gravitates toward tough guy roles. I remember him from Starman, where he relentlessly tracked the alien visitor. Here, he's playing FBI agent Jack Klinger.
Richard Jekyll was born on October 10 in 1926 in Long Beach, Long Island, New York. In 1934, his father's business took the family to Los Angeles, where Richard attended and graduated from Hollywood High. When he was 17, Richard was working as a mail delivery boy at 20th Century Fox Studios when a casting director noticed him. That led to Richard being cast in his first screen role as Private Johnny Anderson in the 1943 film Guadalcanal Diary. He served 2 years in the Merchant Marines, and upon his return, he appeared in the 1949 films Battleground and Sands of Iwo Jima. Jekyll is memorable for his role as a tough MP in the 1967 film The Dirty Dozen, just one of his more than 70 theatrical film roles. In addition to films, Richard was also known to appear in series television and made-for-TV films, such as Salvage 1. His final role after spending 50 years on screen was playing Ben Edwards on 28 episodes of Baywatch, from 1991 to 1994.
Skip has Harry jogging, getting him into shape to go into space. After their run, they check in on Mel for a progress report on the fuel mixture. She's working on getting the monohydrazine to remain stable at high temperatures. She demonstrates its potency by lifting a model rocket with 10 pounds of weights, using only a drop of the stuff. Harry is ready to start celebrating, until she shows him the downside. She demonstrates what happens when the fuel overheats. With just one drop under a 500-pound engine block, when the fuel climbs above room temperature,
Blew right up, didn't it?
Melanie explains that she needs another month to get the mix stabilized, but she notes another danger of monohydrazine. The fuel emits toxic fumes as it approaches its exploding point.
Just one whiff, you could be dead.
So we hold our breath.
Skip and Mel have some history. He's coming on to her when Jack Klinger gets all up in her face with his FBI badge. He wants to have a talk with her. He starts rattling off a list of explosive materials, and she laughs it off as being for the plot to blow up Brooklyn. What? Then she explains that the plot to blow up Brooklyn was the title of a movie she was working on. Mr. Klinger inspects her explosives license, and he seems satisfied, until he notices the rocket.
Some sort of missile.
Harry says it's a spaceship he's salvaging, but Jack doesn't seem to be convinced. After Klinger's gone, they revise their projected launch date to just 3 weeks out. Back at FBI headquarters, Jack Klinger wonders, what are a highly unorthodox businessman, a demolition specialist, and a down-on-his-luck astronaut doing on a remote junkyard with a 30-foot missile and 800 gallons of high explosives? He orders the salvage yard to be put under surveillance.
Whatever they're up to, we're going to find out.
When we rejoin the action, Skip is testing some navigational equipment. Mel insists that he can't do it all by sight. They need a guidance computer. He says he's done it in the simulators at NASA. She wants to put him to the test.
That's what can happen on liftoff without a guidance computer.
Mac says he could build one, but it would take 3 months. Skip suggests that they tap into a computer. Mac says he can do it over the phone. Now, we've probably all seen Matthew Broderick dial into NORAD's Whopper, but that's still 6 years away. By 1979, Radio Shack had introduced the first TRS-80 home computer about 18 months prior to this movie's airing. Mac demonstrates plugging a 4-prong telephone jack into a box that must be a homemade modem that he's built. He says it'll take him about 4 days to write the program, Mac's effort.
We got 3. We test on Wednesday.
We cut to Wednesday's test launch. Skip and Harry are strapped into the capsule, while Mac and Mel monitor from the mission control trailer. They go through the checklist items one by one, finally reaching the point where they test fire the rocket engines. They need the guidance computer for that. Mel lifts the telephone handset and flips the switch on the modem. So they tap into a computer at Fleming Aerospace in San Diego, and they are go for guidance. To disguise the sound of the rocket engine test, all those junkyard workers make as much noise as possible by running grinders, jackhammers, everything. I probably would have gone without the auga of the klaxon. If you ask me, I think that would have attracted a lot more attention. It doesn't matter, though. The FBI has them under video surveillance. They fire up the engines, and all is going well until the fuel temperature starts to climb, venting fumes into the capsule. Harry and Skip have to get out fast. Their stunt doubles slide down the escape ladder while the salvage crew sprays fire extinguishers all around. And the FBI man has everything on videotape. Back at headquarters, Klinger makes a call. Harry's out jogging, with Skip riding alongside in the Rolls-Royce. Doesn't Skip need to train too? Anyway, it's a good thing he's in the car because Lorene calls to tell Harry the FBI is working on getting a search warrant. Mel insists that she needs 4 days to make the fuel safer.
We don't have 4 days. In 12 hours, this place is going to be swarming with fish. Either we go at dawn or we'll never go.
Mel suggests that she take Harry's place so that she can better deal with the volatile fuel. The look on Harry's face says it all. He's crushed. He says no, it's too dangerous. Skip tells Harry that ground control is where it's at. Harry sulks off. He goes outside and he looks longingly at the moon. A moon that he'll never walk on. Mel comes out to cheer him up and he tells her to get some sleep. She's got a long trip ahead of her. It's 5:30 the next morning when we join our jettison salvage team, 6 minutes until launch. Harry hands Lorene a script to read. She dials a number and a phone rings at the FAA. That call is answered by a man named Kramer, played by Howard Mann. He would appear in 2 additional episodes of Salvage 1. Lorene reads her script advising the FAA of the moon launch and telling them to clear the area.
Every time there's a full moon.
At 4 minutes till launch, they fire up the modem to contact the guidance computer. They drop the tent, exposing the rocket, and the FBI agent on watch radios in, requesting to be patched through to Klinger. But they've already fired the engines by the time the call goes through to Klinger's home. He tells his man to get in there and stop them. They're down to 1 second in the countdown when they lose guidance. It's a hell of a time for the phone lines to San Diego to go down, if you ask me. Skip says he doesn't need a computer.
The hell you don't!
Harry redials the number as the FBI is moving in. Still no guidance. Everything's going wrong. They've lost contact with the guidance computer, the wind speed is getting too high, and the FBI is closing in within 1 block. Harry tells them to abort the mission, but Skip says he can fly it. He looks at Mel.
Go for it.
That FBI agent shows up at the gate just as the rocket is swaying back and forth just a few feet off the ground, part of its shaky liftoff. Hey, wasn't he recording that video from right across the street? What took him so long to get there? Well, I guess it's too late now. They're on their way to the moon, knocking china off the shelves at a nearby house in the process. I thought that wasn't supposed to happen either. Harry tries the phone again, and this time guidance is go. Longtime actor Joel Lawrence, who would appear in 2 more episodes of Salvage 1, plays an Air Force sergeant who picks them up on his radar scope. The sergeant notifies his lieutenant, played by Barry Hamilton. He disappeared from the screen after 1979. The rocket is transmitting a tape-recorded message explaining their mission. When Jack Klinger and his unnamed minion rush in, Harry shushes them so they'll hear that message. Klinger radios a request for a patch-through to Washington, D.C.
Ask them to call the Russians. We are a private, just in case they didn't get the spaceship on a purely commercial venture.
KXLA-TV is broadcasting the Salvage 1 story. An engineer at the Lyndon Johnson Space Center in Houston is also tuned in, so a network must have picked up that KXLA feed. That engineer is played by Barry Quinn, who was a regular in many television series, and he remained active in the film and television industry until about 2018. He's amused by the odd physical appearance of the Salvage 1 rocket. He calls out to another nearby engineer. That's Hank Beddoes, played by Lee DeBrow. He was in the industry for about 4 decades, and he's most notable for his role as Sal in RoboCop. The KXLA TV news anchor is played by Richard Eastham. Many people recognize him as General Phil Blankenship from the Wonder Woman television series that aired just a few years before this film came out. He appears in a total of 6 Salvage 1 episodes.
What? Chutzpah.
In space, everything's going fine, but the Air Force is deployed back at Jettison Salvage. Harry is on house arrest. FBI agent Jack Klinger's threatening Harry with all kinds of charges. But when he calls in to his superior at the J. Edgar Hoover building, he's told that pressing charges would be a media circus. He's Teague, played by Peter McLean, who's probably best known for his many appearances on daytime television shows such as Days of Our Lives. Up in space, Skip pops a cassette of soft, romantic music in the tape player, and he starts putting the moves on Mel. It's all so tender until Mel reminds Skip that the whole world is watching. Skip asks if it would help if he pulled the blinds.
No, but you might switch off the radio.
And to be honest, everybody is watching them. They even have the news on a TV in the computer center at Fleming Aerospace, where, unknown to them, one of their computers is running the guidance for the Salvage 1 mission. The space couple finds Serenity Base and they start their descent. It's just 3 minutes to touchdown.
Man, they gotta have some kind of guidance system.
Well, not for long. A technician is about to shut down and service the computer that's running their guidance program. Oops! Skip and Mel struggle to control their descent to the moon's surface. It's a rough landing, to say the least, but they do make it down in one piece, safe on the moon's surface. When we're back after the break, Skip and Mel are trying to repair a damaged Venturi. Skip admits that they'll need the guidance computer if they're ever going to make it back to Earth. He tells Mel not to worry. Harry will get the computer. It'll be a piece of cake for him. Well, Harry's already on the phone with Fleming Aerospace. But it's too late. They'd already erased the computer's memory. Reprogramming it would take 3 days. Now, where have I heard that before? Harry wants Skip to fly it manually, but Skip says that it would be impossible to control the thing now with the bent Venturi. He adds that NASA has a guidance computer, and Harry promises to get that. Harry calls Jack Klinger in. He offers the Salvage at a low bargain price in return for their use of the NASA guidance computer. Klinger smiles. He'd rather let Skip and Mel die on the moon than cave to Harry. Well, that's okay. The Russians are willing to buy the Salvage, and they'll let Harry use their computer. Mac already has Vasily Sokolov on the phone. Klinger shares a few words with the Russian. In the end, Klinger accepts their deal, saying he would have paid more.
All I wanted was the guidance computer. You could have had the junk for nothing.
On the moon, Mel takes a picture of Skip. I was somewhat shocked to discover, after Googling it, that Polaroid film could actually work in a vacuum. I figured some air would be needed for its instant developing process, but I guess all the necessary chemicals are packed right into the film. Huh. Mel should have waited and captured Skip's celebratory jump when he found out that Harry had secured the use of the NASA computer and a whole team at Houston. Hank Beddoes comes on to give the astronauts a bit of a heads up. Due to the curvature of the Earth, their guidance signal will cut out when they're about 25 miles up. Skip's going to have to bring it in manually. Now Skip acknowledges, saying he doesn't need a computer for touchdown.
Wait a minute, Skip. What about the bent rocket? It's only a problem on liftoff, Harry. Touchdown's a breeze.
If touchdown's a breeze, why was landing on the moon so difficult without the guidance computer, huh? Anyway, they lift off and they head back to Earth. And when the camera pulls back, we see that they've added a Salvage 1 flag underneath the old U.S. flag that was planted there by the previous Apollo crew. Houston Control radios that everything is beautiful. And that's the cue for one of the welds on the fuel tank to spring a leak. We come back from the break to discover that everything's hunky-dory on board, even though they're still venting something. An alarm goes off. The fuel temperature's up and they've got no coolant pressure. They've been venting the coolant. Mel tells Skip to cut the oxygen flow to the cabin. What? She plans to use the liquid oxygen to cool the fuel. But if the cooling line's ruptured, wouldn't the liquid oxygen bleed out as well? Skip says they need the oxygen to breathe. They'll asphyxiate without it.
The explosion will kill us anyway, Skip.
In his report to Harry about the coolant leak, Skip mentions the monohydrazine fuel. Jack Klinger happens to hear that.
They're using that monohydrazine for rocket fuel. They lose control and wipe out the whole city. Handle things, come here. North American Air Defense Command.
He calls NORAD, and they scramble a couple of F-4 Phantom jets to intercept the Salvage 1 rocket. Meanwhile, Harry and Mac are poring over the wiring diagrams, looking for a way to bring some outside air into the space capsule once they reach the atmosphere. At this point, Skip is unconscious. Mel is fading fast. They're about to lose computer guidance, and with nobody at the controls, they'll drop like a rock, thus becoming an armed missile aimed at the city. Klinger comes in and tells them they've got 3 minutes to revive the crew or he'll blow them out of the sky. Mac finds a circuit that might work to open a vent, but it will also let fumes in. The Phantom jets are on station waiting for Klinger's command. They successfully open the vent, filling the cabin with outside air. While Harry and Jack Klinger argue over the crew's fate, an alarm goes off, indicating the presence of monohydrazine fumes entering the cabin. Mac closes the vent. Klinger's on edge. Skip starts choking on the fumes. Harry shouts for him to open the airlock and to say something. Skip starts beating on the window with his sextant. He's trying to avoid breathing in any of those monohydrazine fumes, but Harry desperately needs him to say something so Klinger will call off those F-4s and their missiles.
They're transmitting report. Damn it, Harry, I gotta hear voices.
The F-4 Phantom group arms its missiles, and they're locked on target. They start counting down from 5, 4, 3. He says 2 as the glass breaks. Skip shouts, "Don't shoot!" They must have heard Skip directly because I think by the time Jack Klinger shouts they're alive into his radio, those F-4s would have already fired. The Phantoms break off and return to base. Mel wakes up as Skip is already bringing them down under manual control. They're off course by about a mile, headed for a public park. Klinger's acting like a madman, gesturing and shouting orders, and they head for Mitchell Park with Harry's travel trailer leading the way. Jack Klinger's standing on the troop transport's running board for that trip. They're followed by a fire department's tiller truck with a fire engine bringing up the rear. The parade of vehicles is almost hit head-on by a KXLA-TV van, apparently trying to get a scoop. The spacecraft rotates for landing, That struck me as odd. I'd have thought they'd need to rotate before beginning their descent. They're approaching the park, and there are a lot of people gathered there. One old guy playing croquet is played by Nelson Welch, whose first screen role was back in 1952. He would continue playing elderly men for 10 years beyond this appearance in Salvage.
Noisy, rotten jet.
Oddly, for that one spoken line, he received higher billing than the NASA engineer and the Air Force lieutenant. Everybody looks up as the ship descends. One jogger is so distracted that he jogs right into a fountain, and a man on a riding mower drives into a tree. And at last, with everyone out of the way, the Vulture has landed. The fire department extends their ladder, and Harry climbs up to the hatch. When that hatch opens, the crowd bursts into applause for astronauts Addison, Skip Carmichael, and Melanie Slozar. In the end, Harry, Skip, and Mel are sitting around a table watching television coverage of an interview after the mission. They discuss what they could do to top that moon landing. They all become somber until Skip presents Harry with a gift, a moon rock. They reflect on the mission, and they conclude that they make a good team. But Harry doesn't have anything for them to do at the salvage yard. He admits that a great salvage comes once in a lifetime. Then he hears someone tapping at the door. It's a councilman wanting to build up the city's water supply by hiring a team to bring an iceberg back from the North Pole.
On behalf of my associates and myself, you got a deed.
The ABC Sunday Night Movie.
I had a Monday through Friday job at a local radio station that required my leaving the house around 4 a.m. in early 1979, and that meant going to bed by 7 p.m. So I only saw this one pilot, which ran on a Saturday evening. Since the rest of the series aired on Monday nights while I was sleeping, I didn't get to see any of those episodes. If they were ever rerun, I totally missed them. After I got married and we moved into an apartment in town, we got cable television. There was a station called Superstation TBS, and they often played the original Salvage TV movie. What was strange was how the TV guide would always list it with the description of the second season two-part opener. I can't tell you how many times I either tuned in or set my VCR to tape that, and every single time it would be this original pilot that I'd already seen, the one that I'd seen over and over again. And I kept falling for it too, hoping that just once they would play the one where they tow an iceberg to California. Nope, I've never seen it. I might watch that one next. It was tough identifying the characters and actors who played in this film. Half the actors involved don't have headshots on IMDb. And although they're named in the cast of characters, their names are never mentioned in the film. Take actor Howard Mann, for instance, playing someone named Kramer. I never heard that name used at all in the film, and despite his having appeared in more than 50 productions, there was only one photo on IMDb, and that was of no use in trying to identify him. I did find a photo online that helped me figure out that he might have been Jack Klinger's assistant, someone who'd appeared throughout the film, but who was never addressed by name. The same goes for actor Peter McLean. I had him identified as Teague, the guy in D.C. who Jack Klinger reports to. Or was Teague the guy who was watching TV in the computer room at Fleming Aerospace? Who knows? I'm not sure. I had Russ McGinn pegged as the guy who came in to do that maintenance on the computer, until I didn't. I'm just not sure anymore. I have a feeling that some of those repeat appearances you know, like the FAA guy and the Air Force radar operator, are probably going to be from reused footage. As I said earlier, there's not much information available out there about this film, so I'll save you the agony of hearing me drone on. But before I go, do me a favor. Like the video. I hear that helps. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. And leave a comment about your memories of this film from 1979. And join me again for my next video, if there is one, on Old Joe's Reminiscence.